4 years ago, I was lost. I was broken. I was at my rock bottom. Uncertainty swallowed every aspect of my life. Middle-aged women, I speak to you today. Hi, I'm Leanne and welcome to my channel. I Say This With Love 33. I want to talk today about the impact of life just walloping you on the side of your head out of nowhere. That happened to me. And 4 years ago, as I mentioned at the beginning of my video, I was in a very dark space, a space that I didn't even know existed. And this came at a time, I was 54 years old at the time. And of course, I was going through perimenopause. I was going through that middle age adjustment of life when your kids are getting ready to fly out of the nest, when you're realizing like, ooh, life is gonna be different now, like things are changing. Because as a wife and a mom and a person that created her life to the way that she wanted, or so they thought that I wanted, it was beginning to crumble. And not in a bad way. And at the time, I knew I wasn't feeling good in ways, and I knew I had the hormonal imbalances. And of course, I went to the doctor and they did not much to understand that. So I researched and learned on my own, and that's a whole other video. But when you are in the middle-aged space of life and you've perhaps raised your kids, you've been married for a very long time or with your significant other, you've pretty much molded yourself to be everything to everybody and lived through that and accepted that, and that's just who you are and that's the way you've gotten through all your years. That just becomes part of you. So you don't even understand when things are starting to feel a little bit off, or like you are a little bit tired or resentful or unable to cope with anything that just might slightly take you off your beaten path. That happened to me. And I say all this with love because at the time, like, it wasn't funny, it wasn't light. And I don't poke fun at any of this because I've walked the walk. And now I'm talking the talk, and I want you to know there is hope. There is a way for you to get through the space that you might be in right now. You might have already gone through it. Perhaps you're maybe gonna go through it. I don't know, everybody's on their own paths in life. But for me, it was a complete like slap in the head from the heavens, like, okay, girl, your life isn't the way that you have expectations for it to be anymore, because all the things you've done these whole 54 years no longer serve you. And I'm just like going around on my merry way, like having no idea what was happening, just knowing that I felt broken, I felt alone, I felt like I had dementia from the perimenopause, I felt unworthy in my body. I felt unhappy within myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't like my body. I didn't like who I had become. I didn't like that I walked to one part of the house and I completely forgot why I was even there. I didn't like that when my daughter, who's a little bit spicy and she's a Leo, and she would like, get a little bit flared up at something and she would talk to me a little bit aggressively, and I would just be like, and just start crying and not able to handle it. And so I would just walk away like a little wounded puppy dog with my tail between my legs and my shoulders slumped, and go into another room and like, what the hell just happened to me? Like, what is going on with me? Why am I hot? Why am I cold? Why am I fat? Why am I eating everything in sight? Why am I trying to just sit on the couch and watch TV and forget that I even exist? What happened to my zest? What happened to the love that I had for life? It's gone. And I had no clue that it was hormonal imbalance. I had no clue that it was a time in our life. And if you are understanding about astrology at all, like the Chiron return comes, Chiron return, comes when you're at about 50 years old. There's lots of returns with all the different planets. So it's a deep space that took me these last 4 years to understand, because 4 years ago, when I was going through this, I wasn't aware of astrology. I didn't allow myself to be because I had been conditioned and told to believe that that's satanic. You're going to go to hell. That's a bunch of bullshit. And things started to come into play for me and things were presented to me. And I was able to open my heart and my soul and my mind to things that I had always judged and be like, I would never do that. I would never read that. They say I'm going to go to hell. So no, wait, they said it's wrong. I'm not doing it. But 4 years ago, I started to change my thought process a little bit and open up my heart, like I had said, to attain the information that I felt was true to me, not everybody else, not the world, not what society tells you, not what religion tells you, not what your family tells you. But I actually began to listen. And this came after a period of time of learning about this through yoga and breath work and meditation. But I began to listen to my heart, my soul inside of me. And I quieted out the chatter that's telling me what I need to do, who I need to be. This is normal. This is what we do. You're going to go through a midlife crisis when you're like in your middle ages, and that's just normal. Sure, go ahead and leave your husband and go sow your wild oats and go ahead and drink and do all the porn and all the smoking and all the over shopping and all the overworking out and all the things that we as humans learn to use as coping mechanisms instead of going in deep and shutting off the external sources that tell you who to be, how to be it, when to be it, what's going to happen. Nope. I'm going to say this with love, and I offer this to you from the bottom of my heart. Shut that chatter down. Shut it off. Don't listen. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to social media and what they tell you you have to be and what's this and what's that. Quiet your mind and open your heart and listen to what your intuition has probably been trying to speak to you for many years. My intuition was trying to grab my attention and speak to me for so many years. And hindsight, now that I'm in the space of this beautiful, blissful life that I have created, and I will share with you how I did that. I understand that when you are of the world and you're in it and you're listening to all this stuff outside of you and not within you, and you just shove down those feelings in your heart and in your gut, and that's called your intuition. When you shove those down, you just sweep them under the rug and don't listen to them and be like, shut up, I'm not smart enough, I don't know, like I've made so many mistakes, I have so much regret, I'm so shameful for things that I've done and said in the past, like I'm so stupid, everybody else must know everything except for me, so I'll just listen to them. Pah! Release that, let it go, it's okay. And you know what? It's not the truth. And I offer you to, even in my videos, listen and resonate what feels to you. What information do you feel like expands your heart and expands yourself? And go with that. Just don't do something because somebody tells you to. If you feel like, oh no, I don't know, that doesn't really sit well with me, or that I don't resonate with that, or it makes your heart and your gut contract, don't do it. Even though everybody else is telling you to do it, and yes, and this and that, don't do it. Honestly, listen to you, listen to your heart, listen to your soul. It's never going to steer you wrong. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable because we're not used to doing that. And I never did that for the first 54 years of my life. Even in the midst of my beautiful world of like being married and creating my family and having my kids. And you know, at that space in life, you're in it. Like it's busy, it's chaotic. You don't know. Nobody has any lessons on parenting. You're just getting through it. And you're getting through it with all the unprocessed traumas and wounds and shit inside of you that you don't even have any clue about. But it's in there through generational trauma in your wounded inner child. And trust me, I say this with love, it is in there, and you might not think that it is, and you might be like, I don't even know what she's talking about. This woman is off her rocker. Open your heart and your mind and go in and find your inner child and heal that inner child and go back and heal that generational trauma, and it's going to open up a whole new world for you. The weight of the world comes off your shoulders when you can go in and do your own healing. And I didn't do it until my many later years in my life. So I raised my kids, I was in my family, and when I was about 45 years old, I had about a 9-year journey of perimenopause. When I was about 45, I started to feel like, ooh, that didn't feel good, because I have always been a person to just not create waves, to not have my own voice. All my chakras were closed down. I didn't have a throat chakra. Well, it wasn't activated. Everything, I had no boundaries. I was a codependent. I was a people pleaser. I am an empath, but now I know how to can block the energies that don't serve me and how to remain true to myself. But back then I wasn't, so I just did, and I said yes to everything, and I had no boundaries. And within the marriage, it became very uncomfortable a lot of times when my ex, who yes, is a narcissist, and I didn't know it at the time, but I'm like, oh my God, like I'm such a bad person. He's telling me this and he's telling me that. Well, let me go make myself better. Let me make myself a better cook. Let me go to therapy. Let me get skinnier. Let me put on more makeup. Let me do more. Let me give more. Let me do everything that I can possibly be the best person. And if you're in that space, that doesn't work out. It might work for a minute, a day, a month, I don't know, but it's going to eventually just start to break you, and the resentment starts to add on and pile up, and you're not aware of it, and it's heavy. And certain things that would happen that would trigger me, like, oh, that doesn't feel good, but I never listened to my heart. I never listened to my intuition. It took me probably like from the time I was 45 and I was feeling like, ooh, I don't like that, but I wouldn't say anything about it because I didn't want to create raves and I didn't want to upset the narcissist and have him go into a rage. So I just shut down. I shut myself down. I shut my voice down. I felt unworthy. I felt like nothing that I had to say mattered, because if you are with somebody or have a family member that is a narcissist, you kind of learn that it's not even worth speaking your voice because it's just a waste of time. They take those words and they twist them and they make it into a word salad and a bunch of bullshit. And it's so chaotic and confusing, but the whole time you're in it, because there's that trauma bond that I was in for many years, and I wanted to hold together my family. I had 2 kids, I had homes, I had businesses, like I had all the things that this world deems important and that you've made it and you're successful. Oh yeah, good for you. But inside I was just fucking dying. My soul, my heart, everything was just dying and just like, And I stayed that way for multiple years, always taking the blame for everything, always having no boundaries. And I want to share with you, because I have learned on my journey these past 4 years, if you're in that dark space now, I was there. I understand you. And what I would like to say is, like, take a deep breath and shut down your eyes and acknowledge to yourself what you're feeling in the present moment. Because we don't allow ourselves, especially when we've been in a toxic, abusive relationship, we don't allow ourselves to feel. We don't allow ourselves to have compassion for ourselves. We have compassion for everybody else out in the world, but not ourselves, because we have kind of taught ourselves, if you will, that we don't matter. It's okay. This is just what it is. And this is what we're dealing with. And especially if you're in a marriage and you have younger kids, I get it. Like, I did everything I could to try to make myself better and just put a smile on my face and everything's okay, kids, we got this, and let's just all walk on eggshells, because that's what I have learned to do. And so I'm just going to pass that down and teach you so that your dad doesn't get mad and he doesn't get upset, and then our family can just look like it's all great and we're all so happy on the surface level. But inside, it was creating so much pain and unknowingly so much trauma. And I want to help anybody that is listening. Like, if you think you're just holding your marriage together and you're miserable and unhappy, and your spouse is miserable and happy, and that energy is just oozing out throughout your household, trust me, it is. You might pretend that it's not, and you might put up like barriers and everything else that's like, no, we're great. But when you can be honest with yourself and sit with yourself and know and admit that you are not in a good place. And you might have been in a good place a minute ago, but things have turned and you don't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel right. Perhaps your body is screaming at you. Perhaps things are starting to lock up and break down like mine. My hips and my neck and shoulders were locking up. I was a preschool teacher. I couldn't even lift my arms up over my head like this. My shoulders locked up. My hips, I couldn't even get down on the floor and back up. And I'm like, you know what? I am 45 years old. This is way too young to be like this. And then I began to research and cut things out of my diet and become a healthier person from the inside out. And it took a long time to get there. But I would like to share with you that when you're in the process of midlife and you're going through hormonal changes and hormonal fluctuations and changes in your life, which are just normal. You have your kids, you raise your kids, they eventually, and you want them to fly out of the nest. And for me, that was difficult because I structured my whole life, my whole identity were my children and my husband, my family, what I had created. And I gave everything, my whole life to that. And I had expectations. And when my earth came crumbling down and shattered all that, and I didn't know that's what was happening at the time, I thought I was not gonna make it. I can't go on with life like this. There's no way. But I did. And somebody, my daughter-in-law, actually said to me, why don't you try yoga? And I was like, ew, just like I had always been in my life, defensive. No, I'm too active to do yoga. Like I like to run, or I used to. Now I just like to sit on the couch and feel sorry for myself and eat cookies and chips and big fat burritos or anything that brings me momentary gratification, because then after I sit there and eat it and I just have my butt on the couch feeling sorry for myself and not knowing what to do because I had no zest or I had no backbone. Let's just say I had no backbone. I was just like, whatever my husband says and whatever life brings to me, I'll just take it. Oh my God, that was so dark. But once I began to push myself and force myself, I gotta stop eating certain things, because I began to notice in my perimenopausal years, sugar really affected me. And I was a sugar addict. I had dessert after every meal and snacks. And that's how I was raised. So here we go back to that generational trauma. Unknowingly, that's how I was raised. My mom raised us to have dessert and sugar after everything else we ate. So my palate and my body, it was an addiction. And I had to slowly begin to change that in a slow, healthy state, not cold turkey, not just bam, I'm done, because then you kind of go into shock and everything. And then you'll just jump right back into it in a voracious way and just eat everything and do all the things that you're not supposed to do. So I mindfully started to make slow changes in my daily life, because I noticed when sugar was in my world and I would ingest it, I would be so irritated and pissed off, because as your hormones are changing and your body and the composition and everything in middle-aged life, going through perimenopause and menopause, everything's changing and shifting, and you're not the same. Biologically, metaphysically, all the things, we are not the same. So I offer you to take time to listen and educate yourself into a space of natural changes in your life. You don't got to go cold turkey, and you don't got to take medications, and you don't have to do all the things that you see on social media. You have to take this to lose that pot belly. No, you don't. You need to quit shoving shit down your mouth and take note of everything that you eat, everything that you drink. Have a journal, all the stresses that you felt that day, because stress holds on to weight in the belly. Foods hold on to weight in the belly. Lack of movement. Get your body out. Go for a walk. Go for a swim. Dance. And by the way, dance is absolutely amazing space to get movement, get exercise, and also to release trapped energies. You're probably unaware of the amount of trapped energies that you have inside your body from all the years you might have been like me and holding it all in, shoving it down. My wall was so high, it was taller than the Great Wall of China, for 54 years and all the traumas, all the abuse, all the horrific things that I endured, which probably most of you out there have endured it, maybe in a little bit of a different space. You're on a different journey, but you all have some kind of trauma and pain that are trapped inside. So I want to let you know there's hope. I went through all those dark times and that hard stuff to get me to where I am now. So I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, I thought I got like knocked upside the head and my life was ending and over, and everything that I expected to have throughout the rest of my life is non-existent anymore, but that was meant to happen. And I'll go into another video and explain this a little bit more. But I offer you love, I offer you hope and peace and compassion, and quiet your mind and open your heart. Sit in silence and listen to your gut, your intuition, because these years of middle age can be very hard, but they can also be met with love for yourself, compassion for yourself, peace for yourself, and release of all the other shit that you feel that doesn't serve you. All right? I do say all this with love. I thank you for being here. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Share this with somebody that you know that might need this video, going through a difficult time, perhaps in their middle ages. Maybe they're getting close. Maybe they're already behind. I don't know. But I know that every woman on this earth is going to go through a space of middle age, and I want to make it as loving as possible. But we have to start by loving ourselves first. Namaste.